Hey guys, I don't know if you've been bombarded with advertisements like I have on YouTube and Facebook for this thing called Masterclass. They keep popping up every day, and what it is it's this platform where specialists in various fields offer classes to teach you how to become masters of their craft. So you can get writing lessons from James Patterson, cooking lessons from Gordon Ramsay, acting classes from Natalie Portman, tennis lessons from Serena Williams. It's pretty cool because these people are masters of their craft, and yet you, for $180 or something like that a year, get these very intimate lessons with them on how to become a master yourself. The consecrations to Jesus through Mary and Joseph are the master classes of holiness, right? From them, we learn how to grow deeper and deeper in love with Jesus. Through the consecration of St. Joseph, you get to take his master class on how to love Jesus like he did. Hi, my name is Patrick Tennell. I'm the youth minister at St. Joseph's and also a theology teacher at Mount DeSales. Father Scott has been nice enough to let me have this opportunity to lead everybody via Facebook through the consecration to St. Joseph. Now, most people are probably familiar with the consecration to the Virgin Mary that has been popularized by a saint named St. Louis de Montfort, right? Now, that practice goes back to the 1700s. The consecration of St. Joseph is really new. In fact, it's brand new, and so I myself have never done this. So we'll be doing it together if you're following these videos, kind of experiencing it for the first time together. Before we jump in, I would like to cover the idea of what is a consecration. Many of you might be unfamiliar with it in general, and some of you might feel a little uncomfortable with the language of consecrating ourselves to Mary or consecrating ourselves to Joseph. Now, it probably is better to just clarify what St. Louis de Montfort and the priest who wrote the book we're going to be reading kind of clarified themselves, that it really is a consecration to Jesus through Mary, a consecration to Jesus through Joseph. But in essence, the consecration is saying this: holiness is tough, and I stink at it. Joseph, you rocked it. You did really well. Like, you devoted your entire life to Jesus. You did really good at being holy, and I'm not. So I would like to dedicate myself to your tutelage to make you my teacher in this matter. So I kind of just surrender it all to your guidance, your advice. Please help make me holy for the sake of Christ. We live in a world where so many claim to be Christians, but the truth is, many of us don't truly surrender our daily lives to Christ. We don't live a day-to-day devotion to Jesus. Yet, Mary and Joseph surrendered everything to God, everything to Jesus. Their lives were completely ordered and devoted to love of Jesus. And so the consecration is really us trying to pick that up. You know, it's just like being a parent. You know, I spend a lot of time with my kids. But the truth is, I have to ask myself, am I really present a lot of the time I'm with my kids? Because it's one thing to just show up and be there, but it's another thing to kind of surrender my wants, surrender my thoughts, and just be present to my kids when I'm with them, when I'm playing with them. And that second part, that surrendering my thoughts, surrendering my desires and my wants, is really tough. To be honest with you, my son Thomas, I think he knows when I'm not paying attention to him, even though I might be looking at him and walking behind him when we're outside. He knows when I'm not really giving him my focus. And that is tough. Giving away our interior wants and giving our children, our loved ones, our friends our focus is very tough. But it's even harder to give it to God. It's hard to really sacrifice our daily interior movements and say, you know what, Lord, I'm going to focus on you. And that's really why I think this consecration is so powerful. Because we look to the guidance of someone, St. Joseph, who did that, who surrendered his wants so that he could be present to Christ. And that's what all of us as Catholics and Christians are called to be continually present to Christ. And in this time of quarantine, it's kind of funny that you would think with all the times on our hands and, you know, the kind of fear that's gripping us, we would be much more inclined to just be very spiritual. Yet, I've actually found this kind of time to be a dry period of prayer for me. I found it to be a real struggle. And so when my priest friend the other day told me about this consecration to St. Joseph that's starting today, I thought this might be the opportunity I'm looking for to help kind of give my spirituality a booster shot in this time of social distancing. So what we're doing in this consecration is surrendering ourselves to Joseph's guidance so that he can help us become holy like he was holy, to love Jesus like he loved Jesus, and to love Mary like he loved Mary. Now, for those of you who have done the Marian consecration, that does not get in the way of the consecration of St. Joseph. The author of the book we'll be reading is very clear that really, if you think about it, devotion to St. Joseph doesn't get in the way of devotion to Mary, and devotion to Mary doesn't get in the way of St. Joseph because they were married, right? The Holy Family was one unit. And so by consecrating ourselves to Joseph, even though we might have consecrated ourselves to Mary in the past, is really just kind of completing that kind of unit that was the Holy Family. And it ultimately flourishes in this devotion and consecration to the Holy Family. So Father Calloway, the author of the book, really kind of encourages consecrations to both Mary and Joseph. And I would encourage you, if you have not done the consecration to Mary, to consider doing that after you finish this consecration to St. Joseph. Now, this consecration to St. Joseph is a newer consecration, and I myself have never done it, so we'll be doing it together for the first time. Now, I think this is the perfect time for a devotion to St. Joseph because, well, it's the 150th anniversary of him being declared patron of the Universal Church. So he definitely has an important role to play in our church, and this is an important year in celebrating that role. The consecration is 33 days, and it will end on the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker, which seems very fitting for the kind of uncertainty of the times that we're living in right now, especially with people losing their jobs or being worried about money. The idea of ending this consecration on the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker just seems to have some kind of divine initiative behind it. I'm really excited about this consecration because the consecration to the Virgin Mary really changed my life. I did it for the first time when I was in high school, and it really launched me into my Catholic faith. I did it again a few years back through the book 33 Days to Morning Glory, which is kind of like a companion to the book we'll be using for this consecration. And it changed my marriage because one of the most crazy and difficult aspects of being married for me was, how do you pray with your spouse? I had really kind of developed a prayer life on my own, but how to pray with my family I realized was a lot more difficult than you would think. It's just kind of tough to talk about God with your family, to be honest. And the book 33 Days to Morning Glory, what it offered was these kind of short readings and these little icebreaker questions that what really should just take 10 minutes opened up into hours of conversation between me and my wife. And it really helped us develop a prayer life together. And it helped us fall, I would say, deeper in love, but also deeper in love with Mary and Jesus as a family. This consecration of St. Joseph, I think, will offer something similar. So if you want to, I think it would be good to do this with friends or family because it kind of breaks the ice on how to talk about difficult personal spiritual things. These simple readings and these simple questions that come with every day really can open up our hearts to each other and to God to help us grow closer to Him, but also grow closer as a family or as friends. Now, the structure of the consecration will be like this. We will use the book Consecration of St. Joseph by Father Calloway, and it goes for 33 days starting today. So there's a reading for every day, and that reading is usually associated with some kind of prayer or a few prayers or maybe another reading at the end of it. Usually it's something like the Litany of St. Joseph or the Veni Sancti Spiritus, just some good prayers that kind of introduce certain aspects of the Catholic faith that you might be unfamiliar with. The total amount of time really required for each day is only about 10-15 minutes. Also, I will be doing these videos every day to kind of, talk about the devotion of the day and kind of how I experienced it or how me and my wife experienced it as we go through this as well with you. There's also a set of questions that go, they're at the end of the book for the week, but you could break these questions up through each day. There's about 11 or 12 for each week, and so that kind of works really well with doing about 2 questions a day. And it's those questions that I said earlier really kind of helped me and my wife get deep into discussions in areas that were kind of, harder to talk about if you didn't have the ice broken. And so I think those questions are really awesome, right? And, if you don't have anybody to talk about them with and you want to share them, please feel free to also post your questions or your thoughts in the comments below this video. Now, for the first few days, I will be reading the little reading that goes with each day, just for those who maybe are ordering the book and it's not here yet, just so that they can have it. So I hope, I'm sorry if you wanting a brief video. I'll try to make them brief, and I'm hoping that they'll actually be live after this and not pre-recorded. But for those who don't have it, I'll just read the reading since they're so short the first few days. So I'll go ahead and I'll read the first day's reading. Now, I have the book on my phone. I have the ebook version, which was, cheaper and faster to get because I wanted to start on time. I didn't find out about this devotion actually until last Friday. I found out about it from a priest friend of mine in Arizona last minute. And so I kind of wanted to jump right into it, and Father Scott asked me to lead this. So I just have the book on my phone. So I'm sorry if I'm reading from my phone. So I'll go ahead and I'll read the reading for day 1. The name of this chapter is Why Consecration is St. Joseph. It opens with a quote. When God wishes to raise a soul to greater heights, he unites it to St. Joseph by giving it a strong love for the good saint. St. Peter Julian Aymard. Do you want to ascend to greater heights in the spiritual life? Consecration as St. Joseph will take you there. Many Christians have consecrated themselves to the Virgin Mary so as to be more closely united to Jesus. Without a doubt, consecration to Mary is one of the best things you can do for your spiritual life. The essence of Marian consecration is to help you become another Mary for Jesus, a faithful, loving, and trusting companion of the Savior. Consecration as St. Joseph does something similar. Consecration as St. Joseph will help you become another Joseph for Jesus and Mary. That is, entrusting yourself entirely to St. Joseph helps you become a faithful, loving, and trusting companion of Jesus and Mary. In the New Testament, we read that Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man, Luke 2:52, under the watchful care of his parents. Such an increase can happen to you too. If you entrust yourself to the paternal care of St. Joseph, St. Bernard of Clairvaux explains how it works. He writes, Who and what manner of man this blessed Joseph was, you may conjecture from the name by which, a dispensation being allowed, he deserved to be so honored as to be believed and to be called the Father of God. You may conjecture it from his very name, which, being interpreted, means increase. St. Joseph is the increaser. He has paternal love for you and the power to increase the presence of God in your life and take you to greater heights in the spiritual life. For centuries, this secret of St. Joseph lay hidden. Saints, mystics, and a handful of popes knew of it. Now it is your turn to discover it. Now is the time of St. Joseph. The Church and the world greatly need St. Joseph. We need him to help us return to the love of Jesus and to the living lives of virtue. We desperately need St. Joseph's protection as well. The family, the foundation of society, is under attack. The family of God, the Catholic Church, is also undergoing vicious assaults from the world, the flesh, the devil, and some of our own children. We need St. Joseph to protect us. He is our loving and merciful spiritual Father, holy, strong, and ready to help. He is forever linked to Jesus, Mary, and the Church. He protected the Holy Family. He will protect us too, if we entrust ourselves to his paternal heart and his spiritual care. St. Joseph is your spiritual father. All children resemble their parents. You are a child of St. Joseph. You need to resemble him, especially by imitating his virtues and faithfulness to Jesus and Mary. St. Joseph plays a vital, life-giving role in your spiritual growth and well-being. This is the heart of consecration to St. Joseph. Blessed William Joseph Chaminade explains it well. He states, he, St. Joseph, was not a passive instrument in the great work of our salvation. He played a very active role, and that is why he was included in the merciful counsels of the incarnate wisdom. The merciful love of God has given St. Joseph to you as a spiritual father. Are you ready to ascend to the greater heights in the spiritual life? Are you ready to draw nearer to Jesus and Mary and experience an increase in virtue? Let's go to Joseph. We are going to consecrate ourselves to St. Joseph. We shall place at his feet all that we are and all that we have. That's a quote from St. Peter Julian Aymard. Then it ends by asking you to pray the Veni Sancte Spiritus and pray the litany to St. Joseph. I'll put both of those in the links to this video. I hope that you will consider doing this consecration, either with the videos or on your own, but really consider buying the book and really consider to do this to help grow in your spiritual life during this kind of time of difficulty and uncertainty and fear, so that we can grow in love and courage and trust with Jesus through St. Joseph. Amen.